All right. Um, yeah, so honestly, obviously this is my idea. Um, I talked to you about it in DMs, just like, hey, do you just want to have like a cave cast one day? Um, about the past and just what happened and just sort of talk through it. We already had multiple talks on it personally, but I think it might just be like a nice little podcast thing. As a
We've
disclaimer,
had private talks.
we've had private talks, but I guess it might be good to just have like something uh just like, hey, you know what? This is out there. We talked about it, recorded it. Um, and I guess just sort of have like a little bit of retrospective. It has been 2 years, or wait, 2020.
Wait, yeah.
It has been 2 years,
February. Oh, I guess, yeah. So it started February, and then the Exodus happened in like May or something.
right? So I guess that's the first thing that I should talk about, or we should like try to establish what exactly we're talking about here. It should be like, okay, what exactly is the bad times? Um, like, or I guess problematic era, whatever you want to fucking call it. Um, I personally, I think it started. Man, I'm gonna do some memory here. I think everything sort of started around the time um, that like red light started happening a little bit, and when shit went down in red light, I think that's sort of the very start, and then the Fantastic Four as a group happened, and so on and so forth. Because it's the fact that Leah was kicked from red light due to her being disruptive over there. Um, and then uh, time passed, things started getting heated in Caveton, and then after all that, Leah came back, and then I think once Leah came back, we were firmly in the bad times. I don't know if you have a different opinion than I do on that.
Um, yeah, I'd say the bad times were connected directly to your attempt to expand the server outside of the server
That could be.
with red light and whatever else you had going on. I know you had like 3 or 4 projects, including Caveton. So
I guess maybe like leaving, um, like sort of just like not focusing on Caveton. I guess maybe.
yeah, I think you had a shift, almost a. I don't want to call it boredom, but just a shift in mindset away from Caveton, and it really showed. It really showed for a while.
Mm. I'm not. I don't think that that's unreasonable to believe. I think that might very well be part of it.
Yeah.
So that's like thing number one. Like, what time span are we actually talking about? I think that time started around that time, maybe when I lost interest in like, or try to expand Caveton, or lost interest in Caveton in and of itself, and try to expand, in red light. I guess my focus was elsewhere. Um, and I would say around the time where the Exodus happened, and then things just started getting progressively, quote unquote, worse, if you will, um, between the two servers. But I guess that's a separate topic that I guess will be touched on. Um,
Yeah, you're getting ahead.
yeah. Let me ask you this, because this is something that I always get whenever this topic is like sometimes brought up.
Mhm.
At least I feel now with 2 years of retrospective, I feel like the ROTC had a big part to play, um,
Mhm.
indirectly. Like the structure of the staff and the server had a big part to play in what happened. I don't know what your perspective on that is.
Um, Indirectly, I would agree with that. I think the ROTC itself was okay. It was nothing great.
Hmm.
It was barely fine. There were a lot of loopholes,
Hmm.
and it protected people who it shouldn't have protected, and it was way overcomplicated for any normal member.
Yeah.
So I mean, it had its fair share of issues. It also did its job. One of the things that I personally liked about it is it, it had a way of defining Caveton and the roles in Caveton, the roles in which people played in Caveton, and uh, I don't know how soon we're gonna get to it, but I mean that's one of the reasons why the the last guardianship before the Exodus was so hated because we were voted by popular we were voted in by popular vote,
Hmm.
and then uh, we tried to change some things that the people didn't like, but we're supposed to be the representatives of the people.
Right.
So I there are some things that are good about it, and I do think it was indirectly responsible for a lot of issues Caveton has had in the past 2 to 3 years.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I don't know if you agree with me on this following point. The whole point of the ROTC, I think like if anyone like does a cursory reading, they'll find out that the guardianship was almost not directly designed, but it felt like it was supposed to be in opposition to the executive, and then the executive and the guardianship was supposed to be in opposition to the judgeship. Um, so that obviously is going to create some tension. I don't know if you agree with me on that. Like the fact that the structure itself created tension, and
Um,
the popularity vote is also something that created tension. Like the fact that people voted in people, and these people were also friends. I guess that also created some tension. I don't know if you can agree with me on that too.
yeah, I can agree to the latter. But something else is that you were trying to copy the um, federal government structure of America with the three powers, where you had the executive being yourself,
Hmm.
the guards being essentially legislative, but also as the police. So they were the police making and enforcing their own laws, which that's a whole separate discussion one could have.
Hmm.
And then you had the judges who would review and validate or veto the laws. But I think one problem was that there was almost this unspoken competition between the judges and the guards. Maybe not intentionally, but it just bubbled up. I think it's the way it was designed. Was nobody was going to challenge the executive. Nobody was going to, because nobody could. How are you supposed to challenge the owner of a server, right? It's like you're some kind of little shrimp trying to challenge God. Another crab's treasure style, you know.
Okay.
But the legislative, the guards,
Uh-huh.
were voted in, and they could be brought down. And the judges, they were there as long as they were willing to be there, and you could kind of shoo them away. So when trying to obtain more power, you've only got one realistic target if you're in either group.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that kind of leads into like they were almost designed to be in competition or in opposition to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the judge. So actually, the judgeship is also, I think, one of the keys to the kingdom in this, because like if it were up to the guards could have just banned X people, right? But it wasn't up to the guards; it was up to the judges to ban people.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were up to the guards, I'd imagine the Fantastic Four would have been gone and dealt with, um, long, long, long before it even became an issue. But because it was
Yeah.
up to the judges, um, it just like you guys were just frustrated because like, hey guys, like I think this is an issue, this is it, and it's just nothing happened. What was actually your perspective on that? Because like I can imagine, I mean, you were the elite guard. Um, and you were sort of just there, I guess, for the ride. I don't know exactly what was going through your mind during that time.
Yeah, I mean, it became quite obvious that it was the guards versus everyone, and the way you can see that is that the judges were very biased, and while their purpose is to be unbiased, all of the people who were problematic, with few exceptions such as Ronan and Nos, and I was about to say Noskow. Is that his name, Noscowborg?
Yeah, that's Nosk. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking Nosk from Hollow Knight. Okay. Um, uh, no, yeah. So there are a few exceptions, but a lot of the people who are causing problems were very buddy buddy with the judges. So the judges were never going to ban any problematic members.
Mm.
So during the most turbulent time, it was very much so the guards wanted to lean up the server, kind of cut down on a lot of the bloat that we saw there was. And I think y'all have done a good job of that now. I haven't explored the whole server again, but uh, it definitely doesn't feel as bloated, as muddy to get through. And that's kind of what we were trying to do. There's a there's a discussion on whether we did it successfully or not, and I would argue unsuccessfully. Um,
The quote unquote spring cleaning.
but yeah, spring cleaning. That was what it was called.
Yeah.
Um, but it very much was. The people didn't like our actions. The people were friends with the judges, and the judges and all the cases that people brought forward to the judges were either going to be neutral or not in our favor. That was going to be the only two results. No matter what, because if I remember all the judges correctly, Bowman was inactive, Nuke was probably the most neutral, but he was still he didn't like Ichigo or Nicole, but I think he was still friends with Leah.
Mm-hmm.
And Minnie was friends with Ichigo, Nicole, and Leah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two of the active judges and only judges who are active out of the three favoring the opposition. So,
Right.
and I say opposition because that's my side.
Yeah.
My side is that they were the antagonists to my hero's journey. It's a horrible way of putting it.
It makes sense. No, they were indeed the opposition. I just have to ask. So, from your perspective, it's mainly like we were voted in, the guardship at least.
Mm-hmm.
We were voted in.
Right.
We wanted to do this, and then some people, the Fantastic Four, got angry about it, started bitching about it, quote unquote, and no, and there was no one else there to defend you. Is that what I'm getting, or am I completely misinterpreting it?
So, I don't know how many people will know this about the history. Jack is a part of the Fantastic Four. I mean that's
Yes.
if you don't know that, you're not caught up on any lore. The part that people don't know was Jack incited all of the issues that came after. I do not like Jack. He is, in my opinion, he is an untrustworthy person, and that's my opinion. But he basically brought to the community, hey, the guardianship is trying to do a bunch of stuff behind your back. You should all not listen to the guardianship. And he kind of riled up the rest of the four, the rest of the, yeah. And they are very vocal in the community, and a lot of people don't talk back to Ichigo, Nicole, or Leah because Ichigo was very aggressive. Nicole was, I'm gonna say bratty just to be PG,
Right.
and Leah, I don't.
That's a
I'm
whole
gonna be
topic.
PG about that.
That's a whole
Yeah,
topic.
that's a whole thing itself. And let me be clear. This is from my perspective. This is not a reflection of Caveton.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they ever see this, that's my opinion. You can hate me all you want.
Right.
Don't hate Caveton.
Right. I think it's actually curious, and the reason I asked you this is because from my perspective, right? Context a
Mhm.
little bit. Um, if you remember, we actually had a cave cast, much like this one, where I think I asked you who's the most problematic member, and you said Ichigo, and ever since that, Ichigo was unable to let it go. Let's hope takes it a little better.
Did I say it was Ichigo?
Yes, I think I asked, like, I believe I asked you who is like the worst member in KFN or something like that, and you said Ichigo.
Yeah, I would agree with that to this day. I'd say he was the most problematic.
Right. So,
Even above Noskal Borg and Ronin, because I mean, both of them had their seasons, their phases, but
right.
Ichigo was like this perennial, keeps coming back. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I can see exactly what you're talking about. But going back a little bit to that. So like that happened, and Ichigo from that point just did not like you. And obviously the community was more than just the Fantastic Four. You had the other like the guards in themselves, Ellie, you,
Mhm.
and the people that you were around, like Sarah and like the other people. I just can't remember right now. The dragon was there too, I think. Um, so I guess it was just like that vocal minority that was really, from your perspective, was really like moving things around, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
but the the I think one of the issues that is, I guess, not known well because I just never expressed it, was that everything that was going on in Red Light. In Red Light, um, which is the NSFW server that was made at Mini's request, it was voted on, I think, because we got rid of the NSFW channel. Again, my perspective. As a new server, especially one that's NSFW, it was having like some trouble dealing with itself because I was trying to like make a separate mod system um, with new people that were joining, trying to get those people active, and then like having Nicole and Minnie and I think Legos sort of like work something together. There was this one guy, I'm forgetting his name. His name is just like R. He was friends with Brady. What's his name? It was Brady's friend that was also there, and he was also like trying to like make things work. It just wasn't really active. But then there was this moment where Red Light became really, really active, and so we had like the quote unquote guards from Red Light, sort of like talking and doing things. And I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember this, but Leah left the community for a little bit, both Caveton and Red Light. She either was not active or wasn't there at all. I think she actually left Caveton. And then Rubio, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Um, and so she either came back or rejoined Red Light, and she actually had a discussion with Nuke in Maine, and everyone could see it. And so it was so bad that Nuke left Red Light because of that discussion. It was just so bad and so disastrous. All the new members were there, so Red Light never recovered from that issue. And so after that, I was like, you know what, you know, I didn't really like Leah. After that, she was also on my radar because you might know, Gamer was also not a huge fan. Not that Gamer's any any source of confident of like comfort in terms of like, oh, he's a person whose opinion super matters. But Gamer was consistently saying, "Fucking Leah, I hate Leah. Leah's the worst. This and that." Um, and a lot of what I saw that Gamer complained about, I saw in Leah in Red Light. So that's why I was like, oh crap, you know what? No more. Stop. Um, so after that, things calmed down in Red Light. We continued our stuff in Caveton. I think around that time is when the Ichigo comment came around. That you said, "Oh, Ichigo's like my least favorite Caveton member or something." And then Leah came back to Caveton, and that's when, if you remember, I was really like, "Guys, we need to remove Leah now. Let's ban her. Let's get her banned, and this and that." And then everyone else was like, "Frog, what's wrong with you? She just came back. She just what the fuck?" So I guess that leads me into the next thing, and this is where we can talk extensively about it.
Sure.
The Fantastic Four. I think we agree who we're talking about, right? It was Leah,
Yeah.
Ichigo, um, Jack, and Nicole. Like those were the
Hmm.
four people.
Yes.
What exactly did they do wrong? I know it's a stupid question, but like in your mind, what was their like what was the thing
Oh,
that they did?
I mean, you're talking about something that happened 2.5 years ago that I've grown up. It's silly to say, but I mean, yeah.
Of course.
What did they do? First of all, you had a clause in the RTC called social erosion or something like that. Um, by that definition, we were able to, I say we, the judges were able to kind of finally ban Noskow after his problematic stints.
Uh-huh.
The same idea can be applied to Ichigo as causing disruption and conflict just because he didn't like someone or because he wasn't in a good mood.
Hmm.
Um, he was a very caustic person to be around.
Caustic. Okay.
And a lot of people would just not, I mean, yeah, people would not want to be around him because he was just such a bad personality. And I'll stand by that statement. I mean, he was very aggressive. He swore a lot, and
Right.
he made jokes at the expense of other people who were in the call. Usually, um, his humor was. Some people like dark humor. His was, in the abyss. It was very uncouth. It was just. It wasn't dark at that point. It was just gross.
Hmm.
Um, that's my problem with Ichigo. Nicole comes from a more defensive point. She did not like that people did not like Ichigo, and so she spoke up about that. But I also think she was holding some resentment from people like Ronan, who Ronan, I don't know why, but he said he would like kill or do unsavory things to their child, which is not good to say at all.
Right. I
But
remember
I
that.
feel like some of the resentment carried over. I can't speak for certain. I mean, this is purely hypothetical, but she was very defensive about her views and about who she wanted in her quote inner court unquote.
Okay.
So if you weren't in her inner court, you were not a human. It was this hyper distilled tribalism within Caveton, and it's only in retrospect can you see something like that in clear view. But at the time, it's like, oh, she has standards for who she likes. It was, but no, it was all centered around Ichigo. I mean, she was the moon to his earth. Um, Leah, I don't know what Nuke said about Leah. Leah's always rubbed me the wrong way, but I could get along with her. At some point, though, she just you couldn't. She made it impossible to get along with her, and I can't explain why. You probably could better. Nuke Gamer, they could probably explain better, but I couldn't. Finally, there's Jack. Jack is just he puts you Fraught on a pedestal. I don't know if he does anymore. He did put you on a pedestal, and he thought that Caveton in its prime, whenever that was the best Caveton, and the Caveton that he was seeing at the time was not the best Caveton. That we were there to ruin it, and I think he found camaraderie with the other Fantastic Four members in that they did not like the current guardianship for some reason or another. I mean, Ichigo is probably the most obvious, but really all of them, including Jack, had their personal gripes with any one of us, probably mostly me. That sounds very egotistical, but Brady was on good terms with most people, not everyone. Ellie was kind of like a under the radar, and Muley was friends with the Fantastic Four before the fallout. You know, maybe in a kind of just a quote unquote friends, like an acquaintance kind of way. I think I answered that question thoroughly. It's that's who I saw the Fantastic Four as, and their kind of I don't want to say motives, but I mean that's what they were. It was the motivations behind their actions.
I recall that again, red light thing. Um,
Yeah.
I hate to point out red light like it had any influence, but it had a lot of influence, at least for the Nicole part of everything. Um, I recall that I had a conversation with Nicole. I think she was a minister or something. I forgot exactly what the relation was, but I was basically telling Nicole, "Hey, so I see that you're like, I noticed that there was a division, a divide starting to form. So I was like, oh shit, I should probably do something." And Nicole was part of my like group, and so I was like, Nicole, dude, you like gotta get along with people, man. Um, like I want this thing to form. I put her. She and I had like a private call together, and I basically said like, bro, you need to like shape up, or like I just can't keep you in my team. Like if you continue to do things. Um, and Nicole and the Fantastic Four, except for Jack, saw that as blackmail. Um, like I was like holding the my position above her, which yeah, basically I was. I was asking her to please like get along with the guards, and she was like, nope. Leah, I think there's a lot of confusion about Leah in the community. Well, the people that still remember the issue. Um, when Leah joined back the first time, she was loved by everyone almost unequivocally, including myself. Um, she was effective at what she did. She became a guard pretty early on when she returned. Um, she did everything pretty well. Um, and then after some time had passed, some people started having resentment. Fern was among the first people that had resentment over her. I think they were a couple at some point, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Gamer clashed with her a lot because she was a
That's why
guard.
he left.
Yeah, exactly. One of the key reasons he left. Um, Obviously, you had some resentment with her, and I think it's because,
I,
yeah, sorry, huh?
no, yeah, I was about to say ask why do you what was that? What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think in all of these cases, right? Because this is what gamers said constantly. It's the fact that when you got on Leah's wrong side, it was like, okay, I'm on her wrong side, and that's it. And like for a normal person, that's it, right? Like, oh, I'm on, I don't know, Dragon's wrong side. But we like our mutual friends. We might still have mutual friends between us.
Hmm.
It's just the people that have the problem is myself and Dragon. At least I can speak for myself and some other people that I've, maybe at some point have had an issue with. Generally, it's like, okay, we have a problem with each other, keep the problem between each other. Yes, naturally, the conversation might spill out at some points, but it seems like, it's like I have a problem with you, and that's it. It doesn't really affect anything else. With Leah, it seemed like you got on her bad side, and suddenly everyone around Leah, and every mutual friend that you have, knows about the issue or feels weird with you, like singling you out type of deal.
Yep.
And so that's what Gamer felt, and that's what Fern felt at some point, which is where the social erosion thing came up from. The social erosion thing part wasn't even for Noskel necessarily; it was for Leah because there was just no way you could define it It's just slowly through small little actions, which I don't even know if she realized what she was doing. To this day, I can't tell. But it was small actions, microaggressions, like little things that made you feel uncomfortable with just being in the same call with her, or like leaving, like stop texting when you saw her in text chat type thing, is what I gathered from Gamer, Fern, you, and myself when I got on Leah's bad side, right? So yeah, that's why it was such a difficult thing to pinpoint exactly what Leah did wrong, because out of everyone, I think in the guardianship at the time, if you try to ask them then and now, what did Leah do wrong? It's just they're just gonna be like, oh, like she was just the worst. Why? She just was like we can't pinpoint it. There's not a specific thing. It was very small, seemingly targeted things, little comments, little things in her bio, maybe just small things that just irked you the wrong way, and you felt it was like pinpointed at you. I don't know if you can agree with me on that.
Oh, yeah, I participated in some of that passive aggressive
Absolutely.
put it in my status kind of, but that's during the turbulence. No, so for me, Leah has seemed like a mostly normal person. The only time that I can think of that I had any, I don't even want to call it problems because it wasn't a problem with Leah. I felt betrayed by the community, not by Leah.
Hmm.
Was when she came back and got the secretary position away from me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when I asked a couple people like, "Hey, why?" They a lot of them said because they don't know me as well. And I thought, she's been gone for how
Years.
long now? Years. I come in, I'm active, I'm trying to hang out, make changes. I think I was trying to do that. I even took over the what is now director role, not director role, the what is it now? The
It's a
just
completely
the
separate
leader,
system. Yeah, you were like the leader position.
the president. I was the president for like a week or something. Um, and I was active in it. It was like, why did y'all choose her over me? And it felt betrayal, and it wasn't towards Leah. Now that doesn't mean that I didn't feel weird about her. I mean, she was still a personality, to put it nicely. Um, and then later, I did have problems, and that was the turbulence, the Fantastic Four, I guess the worst of it before Horizon. So
Sort of leading into like the middle to the end of the Fantastic Four
yeah,
issue. Do you recall that there was a case made against the directory? Sorry, the directory. A case made against the guardianship, like the whole guardianship, sponsored by Leah, Ichigo, and Jack, and one
yes,
specifically against me, right?
but see, there was a third one specifically against me as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So there were three. So just to clarify, there was one against Koi, there was one against Fraught, and then there was one against the entire guardianship.
Right. All right. So I remember that specifically happening, and I remember talking to Nuke, talking to Minnie and Bowman, and they were like, I insist to this day that they were trying to find a solution, but I don't know if it was lack of bias, like you put it, or just like how convincing the other side was, because I had access to the chats, like I could see what they were saying, and like I remember like your evidence or your testimony was like 2 paragraphs, right? The other side, Leah obviously wrote everything, so they were obviously working together. Um, it was like easily like 5 paragraphs. My thing, like the thing used against me, was a whole document. It was actually called the fraud doc. I actually have it to this day.
Mm.
Um, um,
I'd love to read it if you get the chance.
Here, I'll send it to you. I made a copy just to make sure it doesn't like leave. Um, it covers a lot of what I'm talking about. Um, but that covers the blackmail. It covers everything really that apparently happened. Um, and so you know, I gotta give it to whomever redacted that. No offense to Nicole, uh, or Ichigo, or Jack for that matter. Likely Leah. That it was just so researched, I guess, and very convincing. Like I read the document, I was like, God damn, Front's a fucking asshole. Oh wait, I'm Fra, like type thing. Um, but so you remember that, and you remember that consistently the judgeship showed that they weren't gonna ban these members.
Mhm.
Like it just wasn't happening. So microaggressions continued to get worse, right? Um, and then I guess now we have to cut to um, the entire guardianship just saying fuck it, we're done, and I guess quitting, right?
Yeah.
The mass quit.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. In fact, it was supposed to be all coordinated at the exact same time on the same day, and then Brady was like, "Oh, I got too impatient." It was pretty funny. At least on our side, it was not funny for everybody else.
So that was a
Um,
big that was a that was a big like impact. I think they were about to like dissolve the or they were trying to dissolve the guardianship or something, or that was like what was going on behind the scenes.
really?
I'm not sure. I think they wanted to have you removed or have like if most if not all of the director removed, and then you guys just like quit. Um,
Well, I mean, they got what they wanted. Speaking of the case against me, it was Dragon was right. I got muted. Um, you were after that, Dragon. You were not a part of that. I think you were the guardianship right after ours, where it was like kind of the rebuilding phase. Um, but I got muted, and all of the guardianship was like, we can't stand for this. Koi did nothing wrong. The Fantastic Four is tearing the server apart. It, and in my case, you said I had a 2 paragraph testimony.
something like
I
that.
basically admitted to whatever crimes they said I did. I was like, I don't care what you say because either they're wrong or you're biased, and I'm not going to win. So no matter what defense I come up with, you're going to execute me somehow. So I got, uh, I think was it called Elder Guard? I'm thinking of Elder Guardian, Elite Guard.
Yeah, Hilly Guard.
So they took the Elite Guard role away from me, followed by a short mute. I don't remember if it was like a week or a month. It was a short time. Um, and then the rest of the guards were like, yeah, we're fed up with this. This is not.
Right.
Or I guess they put me on probation because I had to quit as well.
So if I remember correctly, that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember talking to you like, hey guys, like, what happened? Because parallel to that, I was in a group with Brady and Sarah. I think it was just us, but they were like telling me how fed up they were with the whole situation. And I was like, guys, just hold on a little bit longer. I just want to see what the judges have to say because I guess I failed to realize that the system was just falling apart. I had too much faith in it, and I was like, just give me like a minute. Like I was, I was really trying to like hold out hope, and be like, guys, just please wait. I actually still am in the group. I never left it. And I remember, um, actually no, that happened way later. Sorry, we're forgetting one big
Oh,
piece of this puzzle. Totaled. I almost forgot his name.
oof,
Totaled. Um,
oof.
yeah. So context, in case that's needed. Totaled actually came in as, what was the position again? Monarch? Not monarch. It was prime minister. That's what it was. Totaled came
Mhm.
in as prime minister after Legos quit. So Legos quit. There was an election, and Total became prime minister. That's how he got the position, right? Um, Now, before I spoil this with my ideas, what was the total situation from what you're able to gather?
Um, so by the time Totaled was prime minister, I was out of staff. So I was only aware of anything public. What was public was you had gone AWOL, essentially. You were not communicating with people. You were not. Um, you were trying. You were taking the wrong sides against. So there was the public. There was the public idea of what you should have been doing, and you were doing what was the opposite of. So you were making all the wrong decisions. You were AWOL. You weren't communicating. Totaled comes in. He has these ideas to try and make Caveton great again.
Right.
I think that was his slogan actually. um,
Probably was.
or it was somebody else's, but I remember that was a thing for a while. Totaled came in with the idea we need to improve the problems going on here. There are problems and we need to fix them. But all the things that need fixing need to go through Fraught, and Fraught's not doing anything or Fraught's doing the wrong things. And so Totaled came out into basically into the public, like he's been communicating with everyone the whole time as he can. And again, this is from my perspective. He's been communicating with people. People are like, "What's going on, man? Fraud's all over the place. We need some guidance here." And Total's like, "Okay, here's my idea. I've thought about this. We need to make a new server called Horizon. We need a new start, a new dawn." And that's when you came onto the stage, basically took your giant guillotine and chopped his head right off. Figuratively, of course.
But that was like after. Like that, I think
No,
that was the final straw, right?
I of what though? That's what you'll get to. That was
Because like
the very end of.
before that, we're like, at least in my mind, in the timeline, we were the guards just quit, right?
Mhm.
Um, the judgeship did their, like, had their thing, like had their verdict, right? And now totaled. Basically, I remember feeling that way, like no one is supporting or thinks that I'm doing the right thing. Only I believe Brady and Sarah knew exactly my plan, um, and I was keeping quiet about it because, okay, so clearing up the room. My plan was, by the time that I saw where the verdict was going, because I was in communication with the judgeship. I was like, this is not gonna happen. This is not gonna work out well. This is just, it's gonna fucking end horribly. So I remember I had a conversation with Total because I was feeling Total was gravitating too much to the Fantastic Four, and I was my trust in Total was eroding, and I just wasn't public with, or I wasn't clear with him on that. I didn't communicate that with him, so that was my issue for sure. Um, But then I was like, okay, Total's mad at me. I then remember Total got mad at me for that. That was like a huge thing. But I was like, okay, I need to communicate with Total now. I need to tell him exactly what I'm feeling. And what I'm feeling is there's one group of people that's causing issues in this community, and it's not Koi, it's not Ellie, it's not the guards, it's the Fantastic Four. So my plan was when the verdicts hit, I was planning to do like I forgot what it was called back then. It basically total control and ban the members regardless. That was the plan. Completely breaking the system, which ultimately happened, by the way. But that's for later.
Yeah.
That was that was the plan. Just cut off everything, like just get rid of the bad and move on. And Total said no. When Total said no, I remembered, because Nuke was also talking to me at the time. Nuke and Total were buddy buddy at the time, justly so. Um, and so I was like, you know what? Everyone thinks that I'm taking the wrong decisions. Um, Total is my prime minister. I'm not listening to him. Everyone seems to like Total right now. Um, it's probably unwise for me to just go forward. I'm clearly taking the wrong decisions. But if I were to just dip entirely, right, it would leave the community without, a president. And I was like, it's gonna make things worse if I just leave it here. Um, so I was like, Christ, like, what do I do now? You know, my the prime minister, my second hand is saying this is not the way to go. Everyone else is telling me this is not the way to go, and I truly, in my hearts of hearts, believed, hey, kicking these people is gonna make it better. So I remember I tried to have a talk with Totaled and with Ichigo at one point. And I was like, okay, let's figure out what's going on. And they were starting to propose changes. Remember, I think it was called like the new ROTC project, I believe. Right? There was a new
Hmm.
ROTC project. Totaled was really in
Yep, I do
favor of it.
remember
I
that.
remember I remember Totaled really thought that making a new ROTC was gonna make things better.
Yep.
Um, and so I remember I decided that that's enough. I can't handle it. Um, at Ichigo, everyone that was in the call, I felt like broke me down. Like I felt really bad about myself. It wasn't helping that I was like also going through like a lot of stuff. And I said, "Fuck it, Total. Now you're in charge." Arguably the worst decision that could have ever come out of that because Total was Monarch at one point, if you recall.
Yes, yes, he was. I think that's something that not a lot of people remember though is that you were not in the best of places. Everybody was looking at you from one side of the wall. It was that you were AWOL. You weren't doing what they wanted. You were going through your own shit in real life, in your private Discord life. Like you had shit going on, and you just couldn't express that to everyone. So that's a piece of history that usually gets looked over, especially with the Totaled saga.
Um,
So.
so when I gave the reins to Total, I was like, I like part of me knew that that wasn't right because he's new, right? Um, but the idea was to take a complete step down from leadership because everyone was looking to me for issues, and I'm like, I just can't solve it right now. It's not, you know, I'm not making anything right. So Total takes power, and Total starts doing things, with Cave, and I guess
Mhm.
that sort of calmed things. It calmed things down a little bit. I recall that putting Total in charge calmed things down because things weren't as tense, at least from my end, probably because I wasn't dealing with them. Um, and by that point, I was just letting things play out. As time progressed, though, it was making things increasingly like things were going in such a way that okay, if I let Total do his things, things are gonna get bad. Things are gonna end badly. But if I take back control now, it's gonna look horrible. And that was like the justification every single time. I couldn't take back control because I was the one making the bad decisions. I was the bad guy in the eyes of the entire community. So taking back control would have looked horrible, and I knew that. So my best way to like communicate with Total, who theoretically I am nothing to right now, I'm just a normal member, right?
Hmm.
Was, and I don't know if you remember this, the um public not referendum, what was it, the public petition, I think. I don't know if you remember that petition thing, or were you just not
Uh, I don't. You'll have to either remind me or realize that I don't remember a lot about the Totaled Saga.
right? So it was this document that I made. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, it was a petition. It was a petition. It says here, I'll share it with you. It's the petition for nullification of the Beam Blue trial, that was Brady, and other actions, right? And so I'm gonna send that to you just so you can have it, just for your own little nugget of history.
Let me see.
Right. So this was my way of like trying to tell Total, hey, this is probably the way to go. Now that I had a clear head, things had passed. I was like, okay, how can I tell Total you're fucking shit up from my perspective without just taking things back entirely? And so this was it. And so basically, what I was asking for was like, okay, so the case against Brady in particular was fucking horrendous to me. Like, I know your case was bad, but I also looked back on it and I was like, dude, you agreed with everything they said. So there was no way I was like gonna do anything there. But the one against Bean Blue for me was particularly egregious for some reason. And so I was um I was like, fuck. Like what other like I'm gonna go around to every single member in Cave, have them read this document with me present or not, and just like, please read this. If you fully agree with everything here, tell me that you agree with it. And then you can see at the bottom, everyone that says yes. Like there's like a bunch of screenshots with Ellie, Brady, Zodiac, Jack himself, Llama, Gerbil, Muley, Rudely, you, uh, Black Chaos, Omega, Pez, Fern, Megan, Deathheart, Lone Wolf, and Red Fox. Like this was my best way of like, please, Total, do this, and I sent it to Total, and I made it public. I made a big brouhaha about it, and to my horror, Lost Nuke specifically got pissed with me. I don't know if the Fantastic Four were also pissed with me because obviously, and um,
I mean, yeah, you were undermining their victory. Remember, they ousted the people they didn't like.
so I, that was my great thing. Like that was my last hurrah, my last attempt of being like, please do this, do something. The community wants it. Um, and I think you know how Total reacted. um, and after this was made its way to Total, is when Total made his big announcement thing. If you recall that,
Hmm.
Total was gonna make a big announcement, And I was like, internally, I was like, oh my god, it might have gotten through, even though I knew he was pissed because of what Lost Nuke was telling me. But I was like, oh my god. And so then I think you know what happened. I think it's clear.
Yep.
Um, the he had, Total had his big announcement, and then I remember messaging Totaled or Nuke or both or someone. I was like, I knew where it was heading, and I was like, please don't make the announcement, or we'll have a talk later. Like I wanted to make it private. I didn't want me coming back to power right now, right?
Mhm.
Because I knew that was going to look horrible. So if you recall, and I think it's recorded, so I think you'll actually see where if I can dig it up somewhere. I was like, I raised my hand. I'm like, I want to talk to Total later or something. And both Lost Nuke and Total were like, no, Fraud, say it now, say it now. And I was like, all right. I mean, if it like to me when I heard we're moving servers, Capeton's gonna be left behind. We're moving to Horizon, and it was like I'm so excited about this, and I'm like, oh my god, no. But yeah, uh, it was announced, and then I publicly said like, no, we're not doing this. I'm taking back power and I'm taking action.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. So by this point, Treasure Cove had been formed. Treasure Cove,
Yeah.
uh, and please let me say this, not you specifically, Frog. Treasure Cove has failed its original purpose, but Treasure Cove was meant to be somewhere I could hang out with friends, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about Treasure Cove, it'll be apparent how it failed, but Treasure Cove had been founded by this point, and the announcement of Horizon basically the public announcement of Horizon basically solidified the separation of the three troops of Caveton. There's Caveton proper, there's Treasure Cove with the Koi core, we'll call it,
Right.
and then there's Horizon with the Fantastic Four. Um, that was such a weird split, and I don't really remember much else after the public announcement and the execution. I call it the execution. I don't really want to get into the exact details because it was a tragedy. No matter which side you look at it, it was a tragedy.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
but yeah, I mean, I missed all of this information on the Totaled saga, so I didn't know all of that was going on behind the scenes. I may have had an idea, but Totaled remembers it very differently in the much simpler. He was trying to do good, and then he was attacked by you. So, and I know you're biased from your own
Right.
perspective,
Of
but
course.
it's good to have the other side of history being spoken and to fill in the picture. Yeah, Dragon's so right. Horizon failed so quickly.
On the topic of Horizon, right? If you remember, I took back power after the announcement. Everyone hated
Mm-hmm.
me for it. I know that. Well, everyone eventually hated me for it. I think it's worth mentioning that at the time, I think the consensus in Caveton was like making a new server with the same or watered down rules is not going to fix anything because the people are what causing the problem, not the rules themselves. Although
Mm-hmm.
not to say that the rules weren't a big part of it. I felt like that was the consensus. At least that's what Sarah and I talked about because Sarah and I were still close at the time.
Excuse me.
So basically, if you remember, the thing was like this: if you want to stay in Caveton, feel free. If you want to go to Horizon, feel free. We're acknowledging Horizon. If you want to go there and start fresh, fair, but Caveton will continue. And that was something that I negotiated with Lost Nuke and Total. Like Lost Nuke, I don't know if anyone really knows this. Lost Nuke had a huge part to play, and this is actually where I'm going to inject the Lost Nuke sub saga because that was wild in and of itself.
I didn't know
Um,
there was a Lost Nuke sub saga.
so if you remember, Lost Nuke was one of the guard. Sorry, one of the judges.
Judges, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you know that Lost Nuke and I pretty much get along pretty well, and we're pretty frank with each other. Um,
Hmm.
and so when I was looking at the decisions that Lost Nuke took in his trials, it seemed pretty biased, right? Um, so aside from all the help Lost Nuke was doing in order to, I guess, mend divides between um, myself and Totaled, that's what the way I saw it, right? It still it kind of irked me because Lost Nuke seemed to acknowledge what the problem was. He wasn't the biggest fan of Ichigo. He wasn't the biggest fan of Nicole. He wasn't the biggest fan of Leah. Yet when the decision was brought to him, he seemed to want to protect those members, which to me didn't make much sense. Why would you protect these members that you are acknowledging are part of the problem? Initially, I thought it was, oh, it's because he's friends with Totaled and Totaled wants them around, so therefore that's why they were kept around. That was my honest to god like idea. Later on, did I find out, like after everything had passed, Nuke basically said, by the way, I was purposely pushing the system to its limits. So if you felt that the judgeship was biased, you're not wrong because that's what
Huh.
he was doing. He was trying to prove a
Huh.
point that the ROTC was a broken system. So he
Very good, Nuke. Very good.
so he pushed it to breaking point to prove to me that it was broken. That's what I gathered from him. Obviously, this might be out of like not contextualizing it right, but that's the message I got from Nuke. So you're not wrong in
That's
your suspicion. They were biased.
okay. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Because at some point, you probably know this because it probably came up in a case. I mentioned how biased it felt. I think publicly, but it could have been privately to someone. Um, I mentioned how biased it felt, and many came to me and said, "No, it's not biased." And that 2.5 years later, it all comes out into the light. What in the world?
Well, no, no, no.
Oh my gosh!
Mind
Good job, Nuke. Actually,
mind you,
that's good.
mind you, Nuke didn't have any control out of the guards, the judges. Sorry. So the judges, other judges weren't, as far as I know, weren't in on it. It was just Nuke. And the way I know
Right, right.
this, and the way I know this was because, if you remember, Bowman had his huge moment. If you remember, that was I think one of the biggest
I don't
losses of him.
remember what the moment was, but I remember it was. I think it was him stepping down because of some drama about the cases.
Exactly. It's basically I can't remember for certain when exactly it happened, but it was either when I took power and again and we made the Horizon whatever split. Um, but I think it's realistically more um, when I made the petition because in the petition I'm basically saying the judges suck, right? That's like that's how it was interpreted because the trials weren't right. Again, it was the petition for the nullification of the Bean Blue trial, the petition for
Mhm.
nullification of the case against Brady. So basically, that's me saying the guards weren't doing their job right, and so Bowman took a big offense to that, right? Because from his point of view, Yeah, we were. Yeah, the judges were doing everything in their power to make everyone happy.
Hmm.
So he took a large offense to that and he left. That was one of the biggest losses we had in this community, I would think. Um, so yeah, that's the nuke and the Bowman side tangent. Um,
Huh. I didn't know that part of the story. I'm very glad to get the, I don't want to call it vindication, the knowledge now that it was indeed, I'm going to call it rigged because it sounds sounds more extreme. So the trials were rigged.
well, the
um,
trials that nuke participated in were skewed.
it okay. It couldn't
So
have been just Nuke because all of the judges deliberated together.
as far as I'm aware, it was
So
just Nuke
even
pushing the conversation towards one end.
right, but it's not just Nuke that caused the issues. Because just because Nuke was pushing it to its limits doesn't mean Nuke gets sole responsibility for what happened. No,
No, of course
the
not.
other two judges also share some of that blame.
I can see that.
The blame, I say, they were doing their job as they knew they were doing their job.
Right,
But
right. I get what you're trying to say. And yeah, obviously, like
yeah,
if there was any bias, Nuke doing his thing just meant that he was in cleaning, like you know, pushing it to a side, like
hmm,
pushing into that
yeah,
that conclusion. But anyway, going back to the totaled and Horizon. So Horizon split, right? Caveton continued, and this is where I think we both split, right? This is where I don't know if you left Caveton or something, but this is
I
where
probably did.
yeah, I think this is where our communication just sort of stopped. But not on bad terms by any means. If anything,
Yeah,
I believe that you were a victim of the system, not not exactly a causer of the issue. At least I go from my
you
perspective.
can say it to my face. I was the downfall of Caveton in the turbulent times.
No, I don't think that at all, actually. And here's why. I think that so split happens, right?
Mhm.
Horizon Caves. Of course, Treasure Cove was already a thing, right? It was already its
Right.
own, you know, it was already your space. People were sometimes there, sometimes in Caveton. It wasn't a big issue. The thing was that you remember. I don't know if you remember the how Horizon went out, but I remember
I don't.
people tried to make it work. Total try to make it work, but it did end up just being totaled Nicole, Ichigo, and Leah, and maybe like a few stragglers from Kate. That was it.
Hmm.
It didn't grow past that. And I banned Nicole, Ichigo, and Leah from Caveton, keeping only Jack in Caveton.
Which I still don't understand, but it was your decision, and I'm gonna listen to the rest of the story. Go, keep going, keep going.
Actually, I'll explain why I kept Jack, right? The reason I kept Jack was half political and half um like keeping keeping Caveton alive. Because Jack was a Fantastic Four member, for sure. We can all agree that at the beginning of the issue, he was firmly on Ichigo and everyone's side. He wanted to make a new ROTC. He was fully on that side. As by the time Totaled made the announcement that Caveton was gonna cease existing and it was gonna be Horizon, he was he had flipped completely. That's why his signature is there in the Bean Blue trial, right? He saw that I don't know if he realized that his side was wrong, or if he got into a fight with someone. I don't know exactly what the story there is, but all I know is that he flipped. So
Hmm.
because he flipped, he supported the the nullification of the trial, and because he didn't support the creation of Horizon, right? And because he is the Caveton member that owns the library, that's also a big thing. He owns the
Yeah,
library of Caveton. I was like, it makes no sense to ban this member. We can just work out our differences at some point.
I guess that makes sense. See, I'm still from the side that he because this is again this is background stuff. By this point, Jack was the only remaining member of the issue of the previous guardianship still in staff.
Right.
So I didn't see any of that. Um, that makes so much more sense. It doesn't really change my opinion of him that he's not a good person, but
Right.
it makes sense now why you kept him around and why. And I know he is important because he's the archivist of Caveton. Um, so yeah, okay. I mean that clears the air on that. Yeah, thank you. I mean,
But but basically, right? If you remember, Total also was never banned from Caveton during this time. Caveton Total stayed in Caveton on the condition that he couldn't promote Horizon. But that was it. I only banned 3 members,
mm-hmm.
right? And then began the stage of reconstruction because I knew that I had fucked up and I owned that, right? I knew that I fucked up with Total. I knew that I fucked up by putting too much trust in the system. So, I don't know exactly when this happened, but the ROTC was abolished, right? The whole system was meant to be cleared, and I was meant to eventually reform it into something, which never happened. I think it was pretty
Mm-hmm.
soon after the fact. By this point, however, Horizon was already struggling, right? It was not off to a great start. And because Treasure Cove was a server that didn't have mean old fraught in it, I think I had left by that time. And because it was also the server that was without the Fantastic Four, I don't know, you can clear that up for me as well. I don't know if they eventually joined your server or not. I don't think they ever did.
No, I would have banned them immediately.
Boom.
They
Treasure
never
Cove
joined Treasure Cove.
Treasure Cove became the new center because it was without fraught and without the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And so now comes the big thing. What was your perspective? Like, I know Horizon died quickly, but was Total ever in Treasure Cove from the get go, or did he join later and after the fact?
Ooh, I don't remember. I'd have to look at the
Logs.
logs, yeah, of when he joined, but I do believe that he was there before, specifically before he created Horizon. I'm not confident on whether he was there before Turbulence. Um, yeah, so I know totaled. So mm, we need to understand how Treasure Cove was able to survive, unlike Horizon, which had um basically the Fantastic Four ate themselves into inactivity. Treasure Cove took a different approach, was recruit first, ask questions later. So I created this incentive program. Hey, whoever gets the most invites in 1 month or something like that, you will get prizes. And Dragon and Sarah, they invited as many people as they could, and whoever stayed, stayed. But Treasure Cove ended up becoming a coalition of 3 different servers: Caveton, Arctic Forest,
Right.
and the Den. Uh, Arctic Forest is lesser known to Caveton history because it was such a small blip in it, but quite a few members migrated to Caveton and later to Treasure Cove. But the Den is a completely separate, unrelated server run by somebody's friend. Okay, so Treasure Cove was able to get a huge influx of people who were active and people who really liked interacting with each other. Totaled was a part of that initial um, influx of people right before Horizon. Um, so when Horizon happened,
Mhm.
Horizon did not have the same activity base to fall back on, whereas Treasure Cove, I had 3 different communities worth of activity to fall back on.
Right.
So that's my perspective on Total leaving Caveton or stepping down from Caveton and being the owner of Horizon for a short period of time. I guess what would you like me to answer next about my perspective on that initial like first month or two?
So
Because
like I guess now the question is because in Caveton, obviously
mm-hmm,
was the expected dip in activity, right?
right.
That's to be expected, and the start of the reforms, and slowly but surely the recruitment of new members, right? So
Mm-hmm,
during this time, obviously, some members would come in, and now, and I to me, it was immediately clear, right? Almost immediately clear
mm-hmm,
that the problem people were gone. And so, to me, from my perspective, right, because there were no Fantastic Four that were pushing things out, that were making things an issue, um, no singlets, because there were no more problem people, I noticed of the people that were joining calls, you know, it just seemed calmer. It just seemed at ease, right? Like almost like a big
mm-hmm,
breath. So, from my perspective, the problem was solved. I was aware that Treasure Cove existed. I was aware that it was active, but I didn't really notice nor feel it, nor like it didn't register in my mind, I guess, right?
mm-hmm.
So again, from my perspective, it was just like, okay, a lot of people are mad, a lot of people might be upset. Let's start going down the list. First, clean up the server. Second, let's avoid talking about the ROTC. Let's get rid of the ROTC. It's disgusting. It's bad. Blah 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 blah. And then we started doing recruitment. And among the recruits, in case you were like not sure, was Panda Spy.
Oh, this is gonna be a strange. This is gonna be a strange chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm listening.
So
because she fundamentally changed how people in Treasure Cove interacted with each other it, for over a year. She was that big of a character.
So the way to understand this is that as Caveton started its recovery process, we started getting new members. Basically the same way that we got Dragon. Dragon was recruited off Xbox chat. So we were like, that worked once, let's go and run with it. So we started going on different servers, like big servers, and on Xbox to start doing recruitment. And every once in a while, I would understand, like, oh, the Dragon is in Treasure Cove. Oh, they're doing this about me in Treasure Cove. Like, I was aware of some things that were going on in Treasure Cove, but I was like, it doesn't matter. Caveton is the main focus. I even, if you remember, at some point I was like, hey, you want to try and do something together? Try and do something funny, like switch the names of the servers, if you remember.
Yeah.
Right, like
I do remember that. I triggered so many people. They threatened to leave.
so from my perspective, like I said, the problem was gone, right?
Mhm.
So from my perspective, I was like, people are upset, things are happening in Treasure Cove, but it doesn't matter because Koi and I, the two leaders, are on good terms. So what's the problema, right?
Mhm.
And my perspective by that point was also Horizon is gone, right? So it also isn't a problem, right? From my perspective, like Total's gone. You know, the only thing left between us is just some members that went over to Treasure Cove because of that. So again, no issues from my perspective.
Mhm.
But there was a worrying trend that I think I noticed most with Panda Spy. Because Panda Spy joined the server. She was a big Caveton member. She helped move the server from its rut. Um, and then, lo and behold, I get the news that somehow she's involved in Treasure Cove. And it happened with like two members, I remember. Like two members. Um, and just like the conversations with the people that I had in my mind stood up for, Brady, Sarah, etc. Um,
Oh yeah.
you know, from my perspective, I was like I stood up for those people. I made sure that the prom people were gone. The conversations weren't the same anymore, right? I started feeling a little more distant. And that's when I started getting news of some of the stuff that was being said about me in Treasure Cove. And I was like, oh. And then Panda Spy joins Treasure Cove. And I'm like, oh. And then I talked to Panda Spy, and she's like, oh yeah, they say X and such and this and that. I'm like, oh. So progressively, I started having that little alarm go off, be like, I'm not exactly the most well liked in Treasure Cove, which is to be expected, but I thought it was just a total issue, not a worldwide issue, if you will.
Yeah.
So I guess now you can help fill in the blanks. What happened, in that era?
Okay. Yeah, so this is transitioning to the meat of the matter was Treasure Cove became the new Horizon. I alluded to it earlier that Treasure Cove failed, and that's what I mean is that it became the new Horizon. Totaled treated it like a paradise away from caves and a place to vent his anger about Fraught. Because Fraught completely ruined Total's quote unquote career in Caveton. Yes, there were reasons, but this was from Total's perspective.
Right, right, right.
Uh, so he treated it like okay, I can vent my frustrations. Brady treated it the same way. Brady treated it as, okay, yeah, we're still talking, Dragon. We're still. Frost said this is a non-exhaustive conversation. No, this was always going to be an in detail conversation. Brady started treating it like Totaled was,
Okay.
where Brady was expressing her frustrations about the people in Horizon and the history of Caveton, and Sarah played along with Brady. And Sarah and Brady were the two most influential people at the time because they were bringing in so many people. So they were bringing in people who knew them, who liked them, and who did not know as much about Caveton as they did. So they were talking all these bad things about Caveton, and the new people just started echoing that message. And then I don't even know if this is a quote and then moment. Sarah was bringing her baggage from something Caveton related. I don't know if we'll get into that. If we even, you know what?
Yeah, go for it.
Sarah brought her own. Sarah brought her fraught baggage
Right. Yeah.
into Treasure Cove, into the conversation about Caveton, and that spiraled it further. Oh my gosh. And all the while, I was oblivious. And this actually becomes a pattern in why Treasure Cove ended up dying for a while, is because people respected me, but they didn't feel comfortable sharing their complaints with me. And they would talk behind my back, not about me, but about the people I was protecting. So I still respected Caveton. I didn't like some of the people in Caveton. I still feel that way today. There are some people I am not on good terms with, and that's okay.
Hmm.
But I respect Caveton. I respect Caveton's leader, who is a good friend of mine. And I. Dragon! Listen, I can disagree with Fraught
Oh,
about how
so
he
many
ran
things.
Caveton
So many
on
things.
so many things.
Right.
Okay, but he is still a good friend. I've known him for, can you believe it, 5 years now.
Hmm.
Okay, that's not even the most out of anybody, but that's 5 years of knowing somebody and knowing their character, that they want to do what's right by their people. And I hear, and then I get these little glimpses coming through of Treasure Cove, like, we hate Fraught. Caveton's so bad. It's better in Treasure Cove because blah 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 blah. Okay,
Hmm.
and I'm starting to hear all this, and it's like, you guys don't understand anything. This is not a place to hate on Caveton. This never should have been, and y'all are talking behind my back because you know I disagree with you, and that you're probably in the wrong. And I say that because they should have talked to the person who was most affected by the issues. If they had grievances, right? If they knew they were wrong, then they were not going to talk to the person who could disprove them.
I so parallel, right, to that. I'd like to add on the Caveton side of things, right? Like I told you,
Mm-hmm.
sort of going like recapping. Next day, wow, the problem is gone. Whew. All right. By this point, I think I was still on good terms with Sarah. I think I it was not great terms, but like good speaking terms.
Mm-hmm.
Time passes. Some people I hear about, like I said, conversations weren't the same. I was like, oh, that's weird. Why, like this person's suddenly treating me weird. Again, from my perspective, I had stood up for these people, and now they're treating me like I'm a stranger. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then, like I said, new members come in, and then I get wind that they're in Treasure Cove, and I'm like, huh, that's weird. And then the new member, I say new member specifically, Panda starts treating me
Mm-hmm.
weird. I'm like, okay. So I started noticing the pattern. New member comes in, they're in Caveton for a little bit. I see a reappearance of maybe Sarah or Brady, both very charismatic people, and suddenly they're in Treasure Cove. And so, obviously, a lot of people can join, but only the most active people um, go over to Treasure Cove. And so I start
Mhm.
noticing the problem. And every time that I got word of something from Treasure Cove, right? Any time that I got any glimpse of it, by this point, mainly Nuke, um, it's just horrible things. Parallel to this, I was throwing around the idea of shutting down Red Light because Mini wasn't active anymore, and it was a lot of that I had to like. I basically was dealing with Caveton, and I was also trying to keep up with Red Light because if the staff was gone from Caveton, the staff was also gone from Red Light. So trying to play that balancing act of trying to do two things. So I started a campaign of bringing in members that I had spoken with or was on good terms with from Red Light to Caveton, which is where my current partner comes in. That's where Albatross came from. I shot a
Oh,
I shot a DM to Albatross, and I was like, "Hey, join Caveton." She joins Caveton, and we hit it off. And so by that point, there was some activity in Caveton, right? I think there was something going on in Treasure Cove around this time. I'm not exactly sure what was going on in Treasure Cove at this time, but there was a little bit more activity in Caveton, and I can deduce that there was a little less activity in Treasure Cove.
I
And
think I think it was How Bad Can I Be?
no, that I don't know if that had happened yet. I don't think that had happened yet.
Are you okay? I thought that might have been what it was, but
Maybe, maybe not. But what I remember was obviously Albatross came in. We started talking, and we got together. And the next thing I hear, I think maybe even like next day or like 2 days after, I get together with Albatross. Suddenly, I get word from Nuke or Dragon. I'm not sure who. I think it was Nuke. It's like, bro, this is going on in Treasure Cove. And I'm like, what is it? Like, they found out you're dating Albatross. Albatross was 18 at the time. And I was like, no. It's like, it's Sarah. No. Like, I, and this leans into around the time when Sarah messages my girlfriend because there was a moment where Sarah, Brady, and I don't know who else were in a call with Albatross, who by that point was my new partner, but they didn't know it yet. Or maybe they did, I'm not sure. But Albatross spoke with Sarah, Albatross spoke with Brady, both very good terms, right? And that's when the first shot, this is a personal thing, but it's already well known now. So the first shot was fired by Sarah because barely a month into our relationship, Sarah says, by the way, fraud is like this. So now I guess it's time for you to like fill in the gaps in what was going on during the Albatross saga and how it affected Treasure Cove.
um, so this is one of those things that was behind my back. I knew that you had started dating Albatross. I think just in passing. Um, I'm not so in tune. I was not so in tune with all the drama, the cross server drama. I was focused on mitigating inter,
Hmm.
like
Yes, right.
inter server drama, not intra. I think. Um, I don't really remember much from Albatross, but I think this coincides with the time period where there were multiple instances of older guys getting into relationships with uh, younger girls, and that's putting it so weird.
Right,
That is putting it so weird. I mainly mean a larger age gap than about 5 years,
right.
4 or 5 years. Um, it it might have been no. Okay, so Saren, shoot, I don't remember when the Albatross thing started, but I know Saren was Shin Saren Soul was somebody who was not popular, active in Treasure Cove for a
I
while.
think that was after, if I'm not
Um,
mistaken.
After Albatross, I
I
think so,
think.
but it was all within the same time period with uh, with Sarah's drama with Albatross leading into the drama with Saren, um, where a lot of it was behind my back. I did not know people were feeling this way about either couple at the time, about Saren and about Albatross. They were not a couple, just by the way. They were not a couple. That those are two different people, a part of two different. Okay, but Sarah vocalized her, and this is not extreme terminology. This was the reality of it. Sarah vocalized her disgust with both relationships. Um, she was very vocal that Fraught and Albatross was a bad match, and she was very vocal that Saren and his partner were a bad match. Um, so I really don't know a lot about the Albatross saga. I mainly know that that all the information I got through Sarah was given to me through a lens of pure disgust and resentment.
I think it's worth mentioning that it's around this time when I'm getting news about like the disgust that was going on. In my hearts of hearts, and again, I repeat this because I don't know, I don't know, like if anyone's like like again, this is being recorded, but I don't know if anyone's like jumping around the video or something. Um, I I say this again. I to this day have no problem with you, nor did I have a problem with the concept of Treasure Cove. However, I started obviously feeling resentful because every time that I heard something about Treasure Cove, I felt like I heard something horrible about me and now about my partner, about Albatross.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it worse because I don't think Sarah or Brady knew that people were spilling the beans on Caveton's end. So whenever I spoke to Brady and or Sarah, mainly Brady because I wasn't speaking with Sarah at this point, um, it was like everything's normal, everything's okay, everything's fine. And so I was starting to feel really disgusted by it. I started feeling like, this is not great. This is just not a fantastic situation to be in. But taking any steps I knew would have been suicide because there were people that were on both both servers, like Dragon for instance. And even though whenever I brought something up, by this point, Nuke was my second hand. So I would say like, hey, Nuke, here's a suggestion about what we should do about the Treasure Cove situation. There was a suggestion like, people have to choose one server or the other, this or that. So I started coming up with ideas on how to split from Treasure Cove and just do a clean split. And that was shot down every single time because Nuke was like, dude, this is not a good idea. Don't do it. I was like, okay. So I sort of just laid off it. But at that point, I was really thinking, all right, it might be a good idea to have open communication. So that's why I spoke with Brady. I tried to talk to Sarah, By that point, Sarah said that something about a relationship. That's personal. I'm not gonna get into that. But I tried opening, or I guess reopening, um, communication lines with people in Treasure Cove. I was talking with Ellie. I was talking with, I think, Rubio. So I was trying to reopen those lines of communication. And by the time, I don't know if it was before or after, I think it was before the Saren situation. Um, Brady was on talking terms with me again, and Brady brought up the vote. Um, Sorry, no. Part. Okay, put a pin in this. Return. We forgot about the most famous meme between our servers. Lelorax, you know it, you love it. How bad can I be?
Yes, yes.
Do you know the story about how bad can I be, or are you like
um,
lost on it?
so, uh, Totaled was not banned at this point. You had clarified that earlier.
Yeah,
Three
correct.
people were banned.
Yeah.
Um, Totaled came into Caveton at some point after his demotion, and I think was stirring up drama and got banned, but had his alt account still in the server. And one night, he and somebody else stayed up and created a kind of a YouTube poop of the Lorax song "How Bad Can I Possibly Be," with little references to the turbulence. Um, to me, it's kind of funny. I don't find a lot of humor in it. Um, I mean, it's got some good jokes, but it it's very you can tell it's created out of spite if you know the history. So on his alt account, he posts it in Caveton. How bad can I possibly be? Meme, and that's where all of my knowledge ends, and we go back to not Treasure Cove, to Caveton.
Hmm. You're spot on. Um, so the way that I see it, I actually pulled up just so we can like see everything. I pulled it up. Um,
Just have it on the official YouTube recording. How bad?
oh God, no, the meme. People can find the meme eventually. It's fantastic. Um, but anyway, no.
Is it
So,
four?
what is it? Uh, okay. So Toad wasn't actually banned at this time. Toad was in Caveton. He wasn't banned or anything. Toad was in Caveton, but instead of using his account, he used. I don't know if you remember. Toad was in charge of doing Cavecasts, so he had a separate
Yes, I
account
remember.
recording everything. So he called that the cameraman account. And this cameraman account, he changed the name to Abby, put a photo of a girl, I think, um, and then sent it. I don't know where, but I have the quotes here. Let's see. It says, so Total left the server with the cameraman account, rejoined the server with the cameraman account now called Abby. I'll actually send you this just so you can have it for your records.
I didn't realize he did that. I just thought he posted it like vanilla, that it was just straight from the cameraman account.
So he pretended to be someone. That's the logs there. It's actually in the helper hub in case people want to look at it. Back in 8/29/2023. Holy shit, that's been a while. He starts talking to some members, and then let's see. Eight tells it's 10/16/2022. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, so this is like during cameraman account. And then on 6/17/2023 says, thought after God knows how long I would do a little update on me because I'm bored and hojogaja. So yeah. So what's happened? Well, for starters, nope, sorry, wrong one. No, here it is. It says, seen this somewhere. Is this the server it's about? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So here, I'll put this for you as well. So he pretended to be an
Oh my
entirely
gosh.
different person. Here, let me see if I can just like send that to you as well. So the reason I was able to deduce that this was total was because using that account, the Abby account, a long time ago, he had said, "I'm doing a little update. I found that the best decision I made was leaving this place. Blah 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 blah." Right. So that's how I knew it was total account. Um, but yeah, no, he posted this new thing pretending to be a new member, and to me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just tired of it because by this point I already knew what was going on, or I heard what was going on in Treasure Cove, right? Um,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you could have just posted this through your own account. I still wouldn't have been happy about it, but like I was the mentality at the time was like I'm trying to put the past behind. I remember that was like my mentality. Like I want to put everything behind us now. This is Caveton. That's Treasure Cove. Let's move on from the issue. Let's not get dragged back by this issue. And so after seeing that, after what was what was trying to be done with an alt account, I banned Abby and Total. That's when Total got banned. Okay, so now that I explained that, forward in time, when I'm talking with Brady again, Brady brings up a um a motion through the assembly saying, "Hey, let's bring back Totaled Word." Right? I think I abstained from it, right? And I let the community decide that one. I didn't want to make it seem like I was biased, and I didn't want to promote the drama. From my perspective, I was like, okay, I'm not happy about it, but there's a chance he might be willing to put the past behind us. And she posts, or I guess reposts, a thing that Total wrote about it. It was like, I'm really sorry, or blah blah blah, like something along those lines, like you know, like that he wanted, that he was actually like, I guess thought about it a little more. Um,
Mhm.
and so I was like, okay, I read this. You know what? Fuck it. I abstain. I'm gonna let the community decide. And um, during the motion that was going on for that, um, in your server, right? Someone sent me a screenshot. I don't know who. Someone sent me a screenshot that they had changed the channel status to "All my homies hate fraud." Like while this was going on, your channel said that in Treasure Cove, and I
I think I
messaged
got
you,
on to Totaled about that. Yeah.
and then I messaged you, and I was like, "Bro, what the hell is going on? I'm pissed by now." Like now I could be forgiven for thinking, okay, Koi must fucking hate me or something, right? He's sending fucking Brady
Yeah.
over here to get to get Totaled back in here, and there was this thing with Totaled a while ago, and now you're voting for Total to get back, and now he's doing this in your server, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? So then Nuke votes no, Ellie votes no, and that was enough votes to not let Totaled back in, and that led to the creation of my own uh, my own meme, which I don't think you were too happy about either when I first showed it to you, about the Lorax. Um, in my opinion, you know, pretty good, pretty funny meme as well. Um, but yeah, this to me this shows like the tension during this time. I really did feel, and I guess it's true, that I wasn't just not well liked. It was almost systematic. Treasure Cove members, um, like quote unquote recruiting members from Caveton, telling them horrible things about fraud, right? And Caveton, uh, presumably its system or whatever. And then they either become more active in Treasure Cove or they come back to Caveton with, this renewed idea, if you will. I don't know if you have any
I I
perspective on that.
I just wanted to interrupt because I've been scrolling up through our chat and I found it specifically November 5th was when it happened.
Uh-huh.
And you can see my confusion and then my realization. And then later, I explicitly stated, I'm disgusted with both of y'all for the pettiness in the videos.
Yes.
Like, I could go back up and reply to it. I found that and I wanted to,
Right.
oof, y'all were pissing me off with that tit for tat stuff.
Give me credit though. I did wait. I did wait.
You didn't start it. You didn't start it.
No, 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 no. Give me credit in the sense that I waited from the whole split issue. No memes were made of that. But, after the fact, um, after this specific thing, I was really pissed now. I made a meme of it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, was it petty? Absolutely. Was it warranted by this point? In my opinion, yes. Didn't help anything, but, you know,
Yeah, no, it wasn't warranted. It was not necessary. It was all petty, but from your perspective, it is what it is. And also, I found specifically the date. It was April 1st, 2024, when we did the Treasure Cove Caveton swap.
that was funny as fuck.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
I
I
actually,
remember that.
fun fact, sorry to go on a tangent here. I
Yeah.
lost the original Treasure Cove icon because of that April Fool's prank.
Oh no.
I had to recreate it, and I recreated it slightly better, but I had to recreate it from scratch.
Oh man.
that was, that's probably the funniest part of that April 1st.
Oh
Who
man.
really got fooled on April 1st? It was me.
Hey, this is a fun idea. Loses the treasure cove.
I don't know why I didn't save it. I have a bad habit of, deleting images I'm done using.
Right.
Like I have so many profile pictures in my private, like my just a server for Koi.
Right.
Um, and I don't have them saved on my computer. They're only on Discord now.
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
blame you.
yeah.
My
I
shit's like
remember so
everywhere.
many of these. All the way back in 2021 when oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. That was a huge
No,
tangent.
that's totally fine. Um, it's okay. But now, okay, go after that nonsense. Um, and also, wait, did I don't know if I ever showed you the Horizon meme. Did I show you the Horizon meme?
I don't think so. You have to remember I don't remember a lot the about Horizon, and a lot of people avoided me when it came to inter-server drama, drama between servers.
Oh,
Um,
does this mean we get a
so
live koi reaction of the?
I mean, you could get a live koi react. You'll get, in fact, a lot of the drama that you might bring up is probably unrelated to me entirely. Um,
Yeah, it is.
because like the Saren thing, I didn't know about that until Dragon left the server. The
And
how bad
that
can
that
I be?
that's gonna be the next thing we're gonna talk about. But before that, I'm gonna have you stop real quick. So I
Oh,
just sent you the Horizon meme. We're ready for your live reaction.
oh, okay, okay.
It's good.
That is so accurate. Oh my gosh! Except I never saw them again, so I didn't realize. that they were sitting out there like spare change, spare change. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. It was, dude, honestly, because I made that meme, the how bad the response to how bad can I be mean? I felt liberated. So that's when I could actually make some memes out of the situation. Um, but actually, I guess now is a good time to slide into the second thing that really bugged me with Treasure Cove. Um, and that was the whole Seiren saga. Um,
Ah.
so
Mm.
from my perspective, right? This is all dramatization, but not only did you steal my members, but then you brought
Mhm.
drama to my server, you evil man. But no, anyway, from the actual perspective, what it looked like was that there were some people that were um, like Brady, even Sarah actually, um, Ellie, and Nuke especially. Nuke was pissed. There, I guess people and Dragon was also pissed. I got I kept getting like bits and pieces of a situation going on in Treasure Cove. And then I found out what it was about, you know.
Mhm.
And so I was like, obviously there was resentment because of all the stuff that's happened, but I was like, oh, okay, well, I hope Koi fucking resolves it, right? And
Mhm.
then like a few days later, I'd get the same thing, and I'm like, okay, this why hasn't Koi resolved this? And then it just kept getting more and more. Nuke started making
Yeah.
fucking propaganda because I don't know if you know this about Nuke. When Nuke gets upset about something, he likes to make fucking memes, and his memes are good. But the fucking propaganda during this time
Mhm.
was wild. And I was like, okay, if Nuke's upset, something's going on. And so I kept getting, I started noticing some of the members that supposedly hated me in Caveton. And I was like, uh, huh, okay, all right. I don't know what's going on here. And I started getting more and more of the story. I found out who Saren was. And then Nuke and I had a talk about it because I didn't want Caveton to be like the gossip hub. So I was like, dude, like we gotta shut this down. We gotta find a way to break away from TC somehow. We need to like cut it off, force members to choose a side, something. And Lao Snook was like, but bro, like what the fuck? What's wrong with you? Like this is actually benefiting Caveton. I'm like, dude, that's not the point. Whatever. Um, and I guess he was right because like doing anything right now would have probably made me seem even more like an asshole. But the point is that
I think it would have been the right decision, but yeah, go ahead.
but point is that I got the full gist of the situation. Seirim bad. What the fuck's going on with Panda? And then my question specifically, I was really really upset with you because I was like,
Yeah.
you should know this whole situation that's developing in your server. Why the fuck aren't you doing anything about it? Now I have people coming in here talking about this person I've never fucking met, and it's like, dude, like the whole issue was that people left Caveton because Caveton can't solve things properly or on time. And here I see you doing the exact same thing. What the hell is going on? But Nuke told me, bro, just don't get involved in it. Let Treasure Cove things be solved by Treasure Cove, which is why I never told you anything about it, right? Um, but now we can learn your side of the story.
My side of the story. Okay. So I've been saying it this whole time, but
Right.
this is the perfect time to clear up why Treasure Cove failed so horrendously from what I want it to be. Brady, Sarah totaled gossip. They gossiped about Caveton, they gossiped about Albatross, they gossiped about um, Horizon. They did it with Saren. Um, so they're the gossip club. I still love Total to death. He's a great friend. He's my best friend really, but he has some poor qualities. One of those qualities that was shared among those three was they never talked about drama or gossip in front of me. So so going back to Albatross, I had no idea about the Albatross situation other than what Sarah was telling me through like fraud is such a creep. Albatross is getting manipulated, right? So that's all I got about Albatross. So I was like, oh my gosh, fraud, what are you doing over here? Um, I, that sucks. I was misinformed the whole time. What was the next one? Specifically, the how bad can I be? Again, I didn't know that Totaled made that and sent that to Caveton, and I told him, hey, that's not cool. Whatever humor I found out of it, it was very petty. Next thing was what did I say? What was the next thing? My ability to sort tasks is amazing. We'll just go on to Saren. So I Saren was introduced to me as a Final Fantasy XIV player, and he's really what inspired me to complete the game as I have. And I still take my time trying to do really as much as I can and try and still have fun, which has been at the cost of some other people, time wise, the time cost of some other people. But I viewed him as like this guy's cool to hang out with. I like talking with Saren. Saren's really knowledgeable on a lot of things. You know, he's charismatic. He has so many stories to tell. All the while, people were talking behind his back, and I didn't know. In fact, I would only ever notice people going quiet and leaving when Saren joined the call, or when Saren was in the call beforehand, nobody would join. And I didn't know why. I thought it was because of me. I'm a very egotistical person. Um, I thought it was because of me that everybody was having life, or they had life things and they didn't want to talk to me anymore. Um, I believe that Sarah and Brady were talking about Saren being creepy. Um, but what really brought it to a head was, you remember that person Panda Spy? Yeah,
Yeah.
Panda Spy and Saren were the ones who were in a couple.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason why people got so upset at Saren, and then by extension me for not doing anything, was because Panda had just turned 18, like recently, when they announced they were dating. So people thought, oh, they were dating beforehand. So Saren's basically Saren's being a PDF file, and I didn't know any of this until Dragon left the server. Nuke never brought it up to me. Sarah mentioned that it was a problem, maybe before Dragon, but recognized that it was not okay to say these two can't date because of their age gap, because they are both 18 years or older, right? Okay. So I maybe Sarah brought it up to me. Um, So Nuke never told me anything. Dragon didn't tell me anything until I asked him why he left the server. Sarah didn't say much. Brady didn't say much. Anybody else, they didn't say much. So this was all going on behind the scenes. I didn't know any of this. What the heck? So I spend like a week or two investigating, and this is actually how two members ended up getting banned. Was or one got yeah, how two members ended up getting kicked, not banned. Um, Saren and then Toot. Because Toot was talking. Toot was at the time somewhere like 15, 16. Um, and Toot was flirting with Saren, and that's ultimately what got Saren uh, removed. Was that he was talking to multiple girls in a we'll say sexual way under the age of 18. It wasn't ERP. A lot of it was not ERP. I do have screenshots of some of it being such. Um, but that him talking to Toot was ultimately what got him removed. Was because you're saying she was 17 at the time. Panda was 17. Yeah, Panda was 17 at the time. But because they announced their relationship when Panda, like a week or two after Panda turned 18, my stance was we don't know how long they've been dating. So we should not pass judgment. They're both adults. They they should be able to decide for themselves. It was only later when I had gotten screenshots of Toot flirting with Saren and information that Panda was talking with Saren. It was finally like, okay, they need to be removed. Panda ended up staying because it was believed she was not at fault, but a
Um,
lot of recent drama is recontextualizing that whole story.
right. Yeah.
I hope that made sense. It
No,
was very non-linear with that.
essentially what I'm getting from it was that you had no idea of what the situation was.
Yeah.
Um, shit was being said. Dragon left. You asked him, and then it's like, oh, and then you got more information. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
and then it's
It was like it was a snowball effect that I could not have seen coming because I liked Saren. He was a cool guy. Um, at least that's what I thought of him. And then it's like, wow, okay. By the end of this drama, it's holy shit. That's heavy. That's heavy.
it's also worth contextualizing that too from my perspective, right? Because the two thing eventually did come out in Caveton, right? We found out
Hmm.
about it. And to me, this was yet another penny in the piggy bank of, or that's a horrible example. Another drop in the bucket of Caveton and Treasure Cove coexisting is not possible, because Toot was a member of Caveton. He was actually um, Albatross's friend. Like they were best friends. Um, so she joined Caveton first, and then I don't know how she got over to Treasure Cove. So it showed me that yet again, like the conduit, like the people bringing people over from Caveton, things happen over there, and we can't necessarily address them, and it's just it became more of a headache. And let me tell you why. While Nuke, while this was all going on in yes, Dragon. Okay, well there you go, Dragon better. Uh, while the Saren saga was going on, right, and I was getting very upset with you because nothing was happening. Like that night, I was like, "Good night, Nuke. Thank you for telling me everything. Hopefully this gets resolved soon." I put my ass down in my bed. They start slowly drifting off to sleep. Then you hear "Toot toot," like a little Discord notification, and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is it Nuke?" I check my phone, and then I look, and it's the action log, and then it says, actually no, it was like the thing, Siren, whatever, I forgot what his full tag was, joined Caveton, and I was like,
Oh.
no. I ban him. Nuke and I, after already saying goodnight to each other, after already having said goodnight to each other, we would both like call each other immediately, bro, like like it was some big fucking thing. Um,
So
that
wow, I think I heard about that, but I never like I may have heard you told me that and I just didn't remember. Wow, okay.
so this happened in context from what I was able to gather. This happened while there was current investigations going on in Treasure Cove of Saren. Like you were already investigating it, and I guess it was clear that Saren was gonna get kicked or banned. So Saren joined Caveton. I don't know how he got the invite. I don't know who told him about Caveton, but he joined Caveton. And Nuke and I jumped on it and we banned him immediately. So that's the context behind it. I don't know how he found out. I don't know whatever, but there you go. And obviously we banned him immediately because we were not about to deal with that shit. Um,
You know what the most fucked up thing about the situation was? That I only realized um not only after the toot, after I had to remove toot as well, but also after the incident with Panda, which I don't think we'll touch on tonight because we have already been talking a while.
right.
Um, I don't think Saren was at fault for anything. And that is so controversial because he was accused of being a PDF file, right? That's a pretty serious accusation. From all of my interactions, I don't think Saren was at fault for any of it.
That's a wild claim.
I think I think that him interacting with Toot was initiated by Toot. I think him interacting with Panda was initiated by Panda, and I'm pretty sure his interaction with somebody else was initiated by that somebody else. All of whom were under 18, like 15, 16, 17 years old at the time. And the evidence only becomes more damning in retrospect because at the time you're looking at it, you're like, okay, wow, Saren, you're engaging with this talk, with this role play, with this very steamy conversation. It's like, that's not cool, guy. You can't do that. I don't think he was the one to start any of that, which makes it seem like a conspiracy theory. Um, and I am not going to, and I can't do anything about it other than understand that I very well could have been wrong about him and that it was those three people who were more problematic.
I, I honestly don't know what to say. Obviously, it wasn't my situation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not gonna comment on that. What I can comment on was that the fact that it was not reported to you, right? The
Yeah.
fact that it stayed out of your radar for so long, um, to me makes it clear that there was a problem in Treasure Cove and in Caveton. Um, that wasn't necessarily solved with banning the Fantastic Four. It was there was a problem that we just us two didn't realize. Uh, and it's all lack of communication. I think that's like
Yeah.
that's one of the constant things. Yes, I fucked up. There was lack of communication on my part, but the fact that there was like a lack of communication all round and there are certain people that were more comfortable with saying something, spreading something, doing something behind the back of the leader or whatever in your case, or um, of me in Treasure Cove, that fueled a conflict that had no merit to continue because, like I said, this is my perspective purely, but we had no business being antagonistic with each other. I mean, Caveton and Treasure Cove at all. Like, this could have all been resolved by Total and I coming together, recognizing where we both fucked up, and everyone else would have been a little more calm. And Sarah and I talking and doing that, and then Brady would have just, I think, followed along, as ugly as that sounds. But um, yeah, like this could have been solved, and now the story would have been very different. But the lack of communication, the spite, the anger, and that fueled the Saren situation, which is actually a nice segue to a little bit more recent Treasure Cove history, Caveton history, you know, which is the fall of Panda Spy, totaled.
Oh, so you're going to get to it. Okay.
I mean, I guess we're already here, right? Don't stop climbing the
I
mountain.
mean, yeah, because there's really after Saren, Treasure Cove quieted down quite a bit. Um,
Actually,
there
when did you
was
step down?
when did I step down? I stepped down February 17th this year, I believe, which was right after the falling out with Sarah of myself.
Right, right, right.
I spoke to you privately with that, and I'm not going to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into it
that's
because
fine. That's fine. That's fine.
it's something that's very emotional to me. I'm
Still
emotional is wrong. Very, very personal to
impactful.
me,
Right. Yeah.
but I stepped down on February 17th and transferred full control of the server to Panda Spy, who at the time, I trusted. She was a pretty good friend, and she had entered what you might call the Treasure Cove inner circle. Um, that consisting of Brady, Totaled, Sarah, and myself.
Hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, I think so. That's five people. I think one or two people ended up getting replaced due to inactivity from what you would call the inner circle, which is very sad. Um, but so in February, I transferred control to Panda Spy, and you know what? Mental health break. I am done with Discord. I have tied myself emotionally to this platform. I sit in VC for hours, and nobody joins, and I've tied my being to that uh, alienation that people have lives outside of Discord, and I think it's all about me. So you know what? I need to get away from Discord. And so I did. And then I don't know what happens between Caveton or Treasure Cove because all the people on the inside don't tell me shit. So from here on, it's hearing history from you, Fraught.
Right. So then, catching on that, right? You put Panda Spy in charge of Treasure Cove. When that happens, my mind immediately went to, let's try and normalize relations with Treasure Cove. Not because I thought you were the one behind it. I knew you weren't. But because I felt like maybe she might be interested. It's Panda Spy. That project died before it even could reach the ground. There were too many things going on on Caveton's end. But the fact that there was a new leader over in Treasure Cove really did like shake things up, at least internally for me. Around this time is when we had our first talk, right? which is when I felt validated in my emotions, right, with the situation. Like right now, we're having this conversation, and we're letting other people drop in, and eventually, people can watch this on wherever I'm posting this. But
Yeah.
a lot of these points we've already touched on in our first conversation, trying to make sense of this whole situation between us, which,
Yep.
as I think we will always say, was never really between us, right?
Yeah.
Because you and I are in the like, there is nothing. I have no ill will towards you. It was it was the server, and it was the people in the server, and it was how communication happened and how things got over here, and just the dynamic of what was going on that made everything so difficult to deal with on your end. Because from my perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, Treasure Cove seems like a runaway train. It was a train that you started for a specific purpose, and then the community took it somewhere else, and you couldn't stop it. And then from Caveton's end, it's just me trying to make sense of what's going on in Treasure Cove, having some person like some imposter fucking syndrome, being like, what the fuck, like, what the hell's going on? Why am I so hated? Um, Not to say that I don't have things that aren't hate worthy. Um, but point is, you know, it was this whole issue, and now things got so entrenched that, well, the history from there on. Anyway, Panda Spy took control. Um, Caveton continued recovering, if you will. Um, and I guess by now we're reaching the point of modern time, because Saren was really like the last real thing that happened.
That you guys, yeah. I think I think otherwise it was pretty quiet in Treasure Cove. Um, I think otherwise it was pretty quiet in Treasure Cove, and I hadn't heard anything from Caveton either. I mean, I you indeed you I read Dragon's message as my own words.
You indeed.
You knew what was going on in Treasure Cove. You had so many I'm gonna call them spies. Dragon, Nuke, Jack. It's lurkers, the lot of them, trying to steal our war secrets. Meanwhile, Sarah was on bad terms with you, and I'm pretty sure she was lurking but not sharing information from Caveton. Brady probably the same. I don't know much about her situation. But if we're talking modern times, Brady's no longer good friends with Sarah.
Yes,
And
no.
Totaled was banned. So everybody in my quote unquote inner court, they wouldn't tell me anything about Caveton if they knew of it. Panda didn't even tell me anything of Caveton. So I've been blind about Caveton. So I'm just sitting blissfully here in Treasure Cove. No more drama after Saren. It's just, you know what, we're chill now. We've worked out the kinks, and I'm having fun. I'm in a flow, and suddenly I now see I'm emotionally distraught, and look at me. I'm addicted to Discord, and I need a break, so I leave. And then I
the the
come back and shit's on fire.
I think the main point. I mean, obviously, that there was a situation between Panda Spy and Total. I'm not gonna pretend like you don't know
Yes.
your own thing. Um, However, right, from the perspective of Caveton, again, and I talked to you a little bit about this in our previous conversation, but we know, at least you were with me when Treasure Cove wasn't the issue. It was Goody Server. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember that?
And it wasn't even an issue, but yeah, I remember when it was an issue.
So tell me if this sounds familiar to you. a semi-antagonistic or fully antagonistic person goes to a server, either made or inspired by Caveton, um, that shares a lot of members between the servers, rallies behind this one leader or person, and through lack of communication and I guess propaganda, makes Caveton or myself out to be the bad guy. Does this sound similar to you?
I'm not thinking of any servers, not including Xrovia, Goody Server, Treasure Cove, Horizon. Like,
Now,
there's no pattern that's forming.
so essentially, right, what I guess you can see in at least these are all separate instances. These are instances that have their own reasons for being. Obviously, Goody Server was due to a falling up between myself and Gamer, right?
Mhm.
Um, and in that situation, I was also very adamant on we are not enemies. We are trying to coexist. Even though Gamer and I weren't on speaking terms, a lot of the community between Goody Server and us, we were cool. So it was trying to mend bridges. In that case, it was Gamer that was the issue. Treasure Cove is the reverse of that. Treasure Cove was Goody Server, but you and I are on good terms, and everyone else in between seems either to be like lost in the sauce of the drama that did happen, um, and just like never took a moment. Like we never had a moment where we did this during the issue. Like this is the first time, and I don't think people really understand. This is the first time that publicly both leaders of both servers have sat down publicly, talked through the issues, pieced out what the heck was going on, and I guess now with the power of retrospect, we can sort of see where the problem was.
Yeah. So what's even more interesting about this the division between Goody Server and Treasure Cove. Goody Server was so just a slight little bit of context. They're both the both servers are about the same size. They had about 80 members, and their leaders were good friends with Fraught. Okay, I'm talking about myself and Gamer.
Mm-hmm.
Goody Server broke away from Caveton because Gamer and Fraught had uh, some kind of division between them, but the reason why people from Goody Server were friendly with Caveton was because a lot of the people in Goody Server were anti-Leah.
Fair.
So this is the interesting part. A lot of the people in Goody Server were anti-Leah. Leah is a pretty uh, weird figure, but for Treasure Cove, it was different. The people hated Caveton because they tied their hate to Fraught. And Fraught was the leader of Caveton, whereas Leah was just a member of Caveton. She may have been a big figure of, but not the figurehead of Caveton. That's the big like difference between them, was that me and Gamer, and do you remember Logo the Rogo?
Oh yeah.
Uh, and Death? Yeah, we would go and play Rocket League or Minecraft, and with Eddie as well, with Gamer,
Right.
and be a part of his YouTube videos and streams.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie, I I haven't talked to him in so long, but we were on good terms, and the split with Xrovia was a strange one. That is not. I don't see any parallels with Treasure
No,
Cove,
there's
but
there's no parallels there. I don't think so.
yeah, but like there were bridges between those communities, and Horizon had some bridges like Nuke, um, but they weren't as strong, and Horizon died, of course. So Treasure Cove is in this weirdly unique position of the members hate Fraught, whereas the leader is friends with Fraught. Like, what's going on here?
Like I said, reverse Goody Server. And
Yeah,
in,
like
in in the case of Treasure Cove, I don't feel bad singling out some members that
Go ahead, go
started
ahead.
promoting the issue, and I must, like obviously we're talking Sarah, Brayden, Nuke
Yup.
himself in some instances. Um, the division was a weird one, but like I said, you never intended to make a space like that, and I think that's one of the points where you said this is why Treasure Cove failed, and now the effects
Mm-hmm.
of that I think are still being felt not only in this community but it throughout the entirety of Caveton, because now we're living in a timeline where Caveton continued, however good or bad someone might say, Caveton continued, so did Treasure Cove. But the engine for Caveton was recovery, and the engine for Treasure Cove, as much as some people on the inside don't really want to see it that way, it is in opposition to Caveton.
Vengeance. Yeah.
It like that, like
It's.
the thing that moves people, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think it's so important. Um, First of all, for history purposes, right? I think at some point you and I, in the long far future, we can look back at this and probably laugh it off or something when the effects are not felt as strongly. But talking about the situation, even though it's been so long, like I said, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years, and look at the effects that we still have, right? Look at the effects that still affect both communities. Talking about this puts our perspectives on this issue that a lot of people's solution to was either fuck it, bury it, right? Just not look at it before, like what was originally my point of view on it. Like, okay, I just want to forget that this ever happened and fucking bury it. Or what I believe was Total's perspective. I forgot Total. Total was also a big person that drove Trish. Total's thing, which is like just push and push and push and push and push. Obviously, communities, friendships were still formed, but I believe they were forged for very different reasons. Um, yeah. So I think that is basically the the whole thing. So I guess now to finish off this thing, because I do see Bob trying to speak, and I guess we've been talking for long enough. Both of us like to talk after all. Let's
Oh
talk.
yeah.
Let's look at
We're a
let's look
little
at the
we're chatty little divas.
we are, and we think we're so important when we're not actually.
We're so egotistical.
So I guess now is a good time to bring up one positive thing that did well. One not positive, I guess, in retrospect, but one thing that came out of it and the future. So the one thing that I'm looking into is the connections that people were able to forge, and to me that equals when a good chunk of Treasure Cove ex Caveton members joined up and met each other in real life. I think that's a huge moment, albeit I don't think it exactly turned out how you wanted it to. I don't know if you want to express your thoughts on that.
That could be for a different time. I don't. That really highlighted some of the hidden values of the server that were in conflict with each other. But I don't think it was important to Treasure Cove's history. I think that was much more of a group of friends wanted to meet up and instead of a that's a server event, you know.
More like a server event, it's like look how communities, online communities, can impact the lives of the people we share, and how
Yeah,
like yes, right now I'm a voice coming from this box that we talk to people on, but there's real people behind the names in the screens,
mm-hmm.
and people often forget that Koi and Fraught and people that are in charge, we're human. We're not
Yep.
characters, and people
We
sometimes
are
forget.
human.
And like it's kind of it's in a weird place. But I guess now to just go and finish this off. The future. Um, you were talking about a project to Make Treasure Cove great again.
Mm. Oh, I'm not gonna call it that. No, 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 no. I don't like the connotations with that.
I think you want to make
First of
Treasure
all, the
Cove great
make.
again, or make Treasure Cove great again. You have good
No,
members, the best
I do
members.
not.
Um,
I do not follow the idea that something should be great again. I think it should be I think it should be great because it's great, not because it was great, you know?
mhm.
Um, if you want me to talk about plans, my plans have kind of shifted. Um, I'm taking
Personal.
I guess, laid back approach. I actually wrote this all down in a journal. Um, I was talking about a purge of the server, of getting of basically removing people who were bad for the server, but after talking with some people about it, it's opened my eyes that I don't have any reason to remove those people other than my own personal vengeance. And that's not a good reason to remove people.
Correct.
But instead, my plan is just, you know what? I'm going to make myself available. I'm going to make opportunities for engaging with the server available. And I'm going to open the server up to the broader public the best ways I can for the server, which is pretty much just like what top.gg, Disboard,
Hmm. Yeah.
bump bots basically.
Right.
But just putting Treasure Cove on the map and getting a uh, new group of people in there and trying to be active with them, because ultimately the people who I consider my closest friends have put more knives in my back than I ever should have had to experience.
Right.
Um, Brady kept things from me just because she thought that I wouldn't agree with her. And that's the least of the problems,
Right.
because Sarah
Yeah.
is a whole issue.
Yep.
Totaled. I love him to death. He's my best friend. But he can be so steadfast in all the wrong ways. And I I don't dislike him for it. It's just it it can be
A lot.
hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah. Which
It
is
can be hard to
why.
watch sometimes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, and then Panda. I mean, Panda's.
Oof. Yeah.
I I, I still consider Panda a friend, and that may be controversial, but I as bad as the things she's done have been, none of them have affected me in a tremendous way. Um, have affected me or my life personally in a tremendous way. I don't think that makes her a better person. I don't think that makes me want to reach out and say, come back with open arms. But it's just like I can acknowledge that you have your flaws, and if you need someone to talk to, I'll still be here. Because I'm not going to just abandon somebody when everyone else is trying to abandon me. And that's kind of what principle I'm going on with this kind of rebirth, this new era, this heralding of the age.
I applaud that. I applaud that. To finish us off, I think it's only appropriate that we come clean. Um, the whole bad times was orchestrated by myself and Koi. Um, we were behind it the entire time. We knew exactly what was going on.
Oh yeah.
Um, we we orchestrated every single thing. We are that good at manipulating people. Um,
Yeah, all those panic attacks. Yeah,
yeah.
no, that what are you talking about, panic attacks? That was us acting, okay?
And now that Treasure Cove is having a rebirth, I am announcing the rebirth of the frauding community, baby.
Let's
Treasure
go. Oh
Cove
wait, no,
for a
that's
region.
actually it.
Treasure Cove for a region. ROTC is coming
Oh,
back. We're gonna make the Freddy community great again. We're gonna make it
oh
better.
my
We're
gosh.
gonna. All right. In case some people can't notice, that was a joke.
You know how to make a joke? Oh my gosh. Guys, we've actually entered Gen, what are we on now? 16, 17?
16.
We've entered Gen 17. Fraught can make a joke. Oh my gosh. Put this down in the history books.
All right. Well, Koi, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Whoever's watching this or has watched this, whether it be someone we mentioned or someone that we didn't, um, please know that the people that we talked about and us ourselves, we're real people. We have our own lives. There were actual um, interpersonal relationships that were affected um, by this whole issue. Obviously, it's been 2 years, but even now, 2 years after the fact, the effects of a problem that was apparently orchestrated by myself and Koi. No, a problem that had happened between our servers, which you know it shouldn't have any impact on our person, do have impacts. Our decisions impact people, and sometimes, no matter how good of intentions we have, they can get out of hand. Um, and I personally see as Treasure Cove as a weird chapter, but a chapter nonetheless in the greater story of this community that's been going on ever since 2012. You can disagree with me on that all you'd like, but that's the way I see it. And in that context, I think it's refreshing to have this open talk with you, Koi. And as sort of a reminder that it's important that we do bring these things up every once in a while, not because we're dwelling on them. This is not Koi and myself dwelling on the past, holding on to this conflict. I think this is more of us finally, after 2 fucking years, getting some things out of our chest publicly, um,
Yeah.
making
So basically making it open to the public to see like, hey, these were the problems going on behind the scenes that y'all weren't helping to solve.
I agree with that, and whatever issues happen from here on out, either in Caveton and Treasure Cove, the greater fighting community, which we're totally forming with Treasure Cove. Um, okay, that's enough of that. Sorry. Um, but no matter where problems happen, I think that we should forgive each other. Just never forget, and let's talk about it. Talking about it doesn't mean we have to bring up old wounds. It means we can talk about them, and someday in the future, some member will ask what happened, and we can all look back on this chapter, acknowledge it's painful, but acknowledge it's gone, and more importantly, learn from it. I'll be the first one to admit I'm having troubles doing that myself. Dragon knows about that more than anyone. But
I know about it too.
um, but in the end, it's all about trying to learn from a mutual past that Koi, you and I have lived. Unfortunately, some most of the time, as people would watch a movie and watching the actors just do their thing.
Yeah, I think I think another good final point to make is that when we have these conversations, when we are honest and we make ourselves vulnerable and are willing to holy yap, yeah, we're yappers. Okay, this ending is going to be like 30 minutes long. No, it's very important that when we're having these honest conversations, these open discussions, these vulnerable when we're making ourselves vulnerable, that we recognize we do not need to agree with each other. There are some policies that Fraught has supported over the years that I have vehemently disagreed with, and Fraught disagreed with several of the things, many of the things that I did with Treasure Cove, and even it being what it became. But we are still friends.
I think that's the most important
We
part,
need
right? right now in
Yeah.
this moment, especially in the real world, where there are families being broken apart by politics, being broken apart by everything. I think it's important that we reinforce unity, if not in the politics in the nation level, at least in the community level. Life is already difficult enough as it is, that we do not have to make things worse. Now, for the final yap, Koi.
For the final yap, uh, yeah. Let we don't need to agree with each other. We need to accept our differences and find a path to the future together. Um, Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting up with me and Frot's bullshit. we are we are two old souls that just love to talk about ourselves.
And now in Spanish. Bienvenidos a esta conversación.
Just auto subtitles in Spanish. Like, where are the English subtitles?
All right, that's enough. See y'all.
All right, adios.